Come on, forecast. Give me a good one. Looking pretty good. I think we can cut hay, Oakley.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Howdy, folks. Darren with you, Cross Timbers Farm. Welcome to 8th Day Chronicles. Glad to have you with us on this beautiful August day. Been sitting here looking at my phone at the weather forecast. Weather is everything when it comes to being a hay farmer. We have to have the rainfall, but we have to have that window of no rainfall to be able to harvest our crop. Man, it has been a wide open hay season here on the farm this year. Last night, I sit at home in my chair with a pencil and some paper, and I keep very detailed notes of our hay business, the production we're getting, what we've done to our soil, has it produced good results, things of that nature. I keep all this documented so I can always go back and reference it. And if you follow along with our channel, you've probably saw in the past where I've talked about how we had to up our production. You can only get so much off of so many acres, and that's just a fact of life. Without more land, there's going to be a limit to how far you can go with it. However, based on our hay sales, we needed to start producing all the hay we could produce, every single extra bale we could make, because demand has been that good for us. And thank you, Lord, for that good business and our great customers. But we needed to up production. Now, we don't sacrifice our quality of our product and our hay for quantity. We just don't. But if you can produce more of that quality, what your customers expect from you, you'd be crazy not to. And we need more, because our customers will buy more. They want more. And we have strived to produce every bale of hay we can this year from last year, trying to increase it this year through not acquiring more land, but through being good stewards of our soil and our farm. Soil test we done all through the winter. Frost seeding we done through the winter. Liming we done all through the winter. Trying different amounts of lime here and there, even though we did have a soil test, just to see. We need to up our production. Let's try some things. Let's think outside the box, and let's do a few things to see if something pays off or if it doesn't. That's where our test plot comes in. We have done some different things this year. We've expanded a few things too. We expanded our test plot this year. We're trying to do everything we can to make a few more bales, because our customers are wanting more hay. We're wanting to supply their needs. The reclaimed hay field, work in progress, really working at it to make more and more hay. And that reclaimed hay field is still a work in progress. So is our test plot extension. And our test plot extension, speaking of that, is not going that well. Our test plot is going fantastic, but the extension of it, we didn't have this problem at first cut. Second cut, that test plot extension is absolutely full of foxtail. We're going to have to deal with that. up our production, but don't sacrifice our quality. And how can we make more? We've only got so much land. How are we going to make more without reaching out to other properties, either leasing hay fields or cutting other people's hay fields? And we're striving to do everything we can right here because we have absolute control here. Last night I sit down and crunched some numbers, done some figuring. Bear in mind, we're halfway through our hay season this year. We've had 2 cuts on everything except our reclaimed hay field. We're hoping today to do our 3rd cut on the test plot. And not hoping, we are. We're going to be mowing this test plot here very shortly. We've got the drum mower, everything hooked to the Kubota, and we're ready to start mowing. We're just waiting till late evening to cut this because it's a small plot. We're halfway through. We are already at halfway through this season. We have already baled 41 more 2x2 round bales of hay than we did all of 2023. Halfway through this season, we're already surpassed the number of bales we did last year. And now, everything going forward is just going to keep adding to that number, more and more and more. We are planning, unless the weather changes, something happens and our hay just quits growing. If we continue to get rainfall, decent amounts of rainfall occasionally, to keep our hays growing, our hay fields in good shape, we're hoping for today to cut the test plot. That'll be 3 cuts, and hoping to get even another one about the 1st October. That'd be 4 cuts off this test plot. We're hoping to get 3 cuts off of our main hay field. We just cut our main hay field last week. We're hoping to get a 2nd and possibly a 3rd cutting off of our reclaimed hay field. When I crunched those numbers last night, I couldn't tell you how pleased I was that our quality had stayed up very high, but our quantity had went up that much. And that is a direct gift from God with the weather we've had, good growing weather. And when we cut our main hay field last week, good grief, I don't know how I missed that. I got out in that hayfield and walked around some, the weeks leading up to it. I did not realize that hay was that thick. I was so concentrating on just looking for weeds, looking at the quality of it, that I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the quantity, I guess. I don't know. I'm still a little bumfuzzled how there was so much hay there, and I didn't even notice it. Our first cutting on the main hayfield, and everybody knows how that went all through the southeast. We had so much rainfall through early spring, late spring and early summer that nobody could cut because of the rain. You couldn't get a window to cut and have dry down. So everybody just had to wait. So did we. And everyone's hay got really tall and really thick. And a lot of folks were reporting record numbers of bales, at least in this area. Everybody had bukus of hay. We did too. We had a really good first cutting. Our second cutting last week on that same field produced 5 more 2x2 round bales than that first cutting did. I was shocked. And that number of bales, hardly no stems, very soft, palatable, prime second cut hay. And we sold all that hay right out of the field. We had some great customers that come by and they collected it right out of the field. We didn't have to haul it to the barn. We got great customers. And not only that, even if they didn't buy hay from us, they're great people. They got some really good prime hay, and our numbers just keep climbing. Could not be happier. We're hoping, I'm not sure how many bales we're going to get off this test plot. I'm fixing to cut it in a few minutes, and I hope first cutting off of this, we got a record 18 and a half bales. I don't know, we'll see when we cut it. It is super duper thick, and it is premium hay, to the top of the tier, premium hay. So we're going to get started cutting here soon. This is just adding to our tally of how much more hay we're getting compared to last year. Stick with us. We're going to be cutting hay with the Kubota and the Kowalski / Farm Maxx FDM 135 drum mower. We do still have the drum mower set at 2 spacers cut height, and it's been several days since we cut the main hay field with the drum mower with 2 spacers, and I've had plenty of time to walk that main hay field and look very pleased with the cut quality that drum mower did at 2 spacers. So we're leaving it there for now. Will we leave it there the rest of the season and next year? I don't know, but I know we're going to cut our test plot here at 2 spacers, and our reclaimed hay field. All of our second and third cut here is going to be cut at 2 spacers, and probably the rest of the year, unless something drastic happens today or 2 days from now to change my mind, because it cuts so good. Very happy with it. So stick with us. It's about 5 p.m. Our sugars and starches should be at a good level in our test plot in all these cool season grasses. Our orchard, tall fescue and Timothy. We are not going to cut the test plot extension for hay. I'm only going to cut the original test plot, because that hay in it is almost weed free. If you go down into the test plot extension, that's a new area for us this year, and the foxtail is a problem down there we're going to have to deal with this winter. Somehow, some way, doing a lot of research on it now to prepare for this winter when we deal with that. I don't know if we'll get any more cuts off that lower extension part or not this year, because the first cutting we had, foxtail does not emerge and come out into seed heads and stuff until midsummer. So in the first cut we do in early summer, we don't have to deal with that stuff. Now it's out down there, and it was not that bad last year. It's bad this year. We're going to have to do something with that. So we're not going to cut that. We're only going to cut this very small 2/10 of an acre on our test plot. And you'll see, and if you've watched any of our videos in the past, you know this, we mow this test plot slow. There's no need to be in a hurry. It's 2/10 of an acre. However, if we get whatever bales we get off of it, whether it's 5 bales or 20, it just adds to our total, and it's really high quality hay. The hay that numbers that we get off this test plot don't really matter. That's not what the test plot's for. It's for a very controlled, limited space that we can work and see what works and what doesn't. Try different things. If you have a test plot or you've watched our videos, and we actually have a series in our playlist about making your own test plot. It's called Test Plot Basics. And if you hadn't watched that and a test plot interests you, I'd encourage you to watch those. I think there's only 4 parts to that series. But the hay we get off of it's prime hay. This goes into our hay sales every year. So we're going to get started cutting it. This will be the 3rd cutting off this test plot this year. So we'll get the Kubota fired up, let it idle for a minute or 2 and get warmed up before I bring that thing up to 540 RPM. And we'll start mowing. Stay with us. test plot's cut. Boy, it's thick hay. I'm not kidding you. And I'm gonna bend over here and pick a little bit of it. Look how wide the blades of grass are on this orchard. Look how wide that blade is. I'm really curious to how many bales it's gonna make. But regardless, it's gonna be premium hay. Like I said earlier, literally takes me about 15 minutes to mow this test plot, even as slow as I was going. I just go slow. There's no need to go fast in it. We cut it with 2 spacers on the drum mower. Really hard to tell until you get the hay off the field. Then you can look. Right now, with all this hay down, you can't really tell how good it done. You gotta wait till it's raked and baled and off the field. Then when the field's real clean, then you can come look. But based on how it cut on our main hay field at 2 spacers, it was 2 thumbs up. It was fantastic, and I anticipate this to be no different. This was maybe just a tad thicker than the main hay field, but the main hay field was really thick. And when, like I said earlier, when you have that subsequent cuts after first cutting, the hay don't grow up so high on all those stems. There's the reproductive stage is over. Now you're just dealing with a lot of leafy matter, and it don't grow way up. It comes up so high and then lays out, and the leaves under it's laying out and under it, and those leaves on top kind of start pushing down on those underneath leaves and makes it really, really thick. You get the thickness instead of the height in your second and later cuttings. We're going to bush hog our extension. That's a work in progress, and even though we did cut some off of it for our first cutting, we ain't even going to cut none of it for this cutting. Probably after we get this baled, we'll bush hog it and try to get all those seed heads maybe raked down off the field, so they're just not there to, because a lot of that foxtail has seed headed, and it's still pretty green, so I'm not worried about the seed heads right now coming off. But we'll take care of that bush hogging it within a week and a half before those seed heads come to maturity and fall off. And we'll bush hog it and rake it off into the woods. Try to prevent more seed from going into that seed bank. As you can see, we've got the Rhino PT207 2-basket hay tedder hooked up to the Kubota. We started mowing about 5 p.m. and we finished by 5:20, 5:15. But you know, we spent some time unhooking the drum mower and setting it off and hooking up the tedder, and in no hurry, so we killed a little bit of time. But it's still only about 6:15 p.m. and it don't get dark till about 8:15. So we got about 2 hours. I'm gonna kick this hay. If you can spread your hay out into the sunshine, so those stomatal openings will stay open instead of covered under a swath of other hay, all that hay under it, in the dark, it starts consuming those sugars and starches. Quality hay and premium hay is not happenstance. It's a totality of the circumstances. It started with soil samples and working in the dirt, fertilize, lime, checking our pH levels, all the way up through, frost seeding, all that stuff, all the way up through to now we're tedding this out. We cut it at a late time. We're tedding it out to keep those sugars and starches high, and then we'll bale it when it's at the proper moisture content, not dry as dust, but not too wet to develop any kind of mold or anything like that. There's a fine line of premium hay, and that's what you find at a small family farm. I'm convinced that attention to detail. pretty close. Let's try it right there. Hook my safety chains up. Pretty obvious I need to adjust the tether down one turn. I left some hay out through there. I seen the tines coming around, it was still laying, it wasn't getting kicked. That is some darn thick hay. That's gonna take some time to dry down. Boy, that's thick. I'm talking thick, thick. And man, it is 95% leaf. Boy, and it is soft. That's gonna make some Jim Dandy hay. Wow. For no bigger this space is, this is gonna make some huge windrows too. I may have let this go a little too far again. When you're dealing with a mini round baler, you're making a 2x2 round bale. Your windrows has got to be size appropriate. This may be tough. I may have to let that little baler go 3 or 4 feet and stop and let this sit there and eat that hay, and then go 3 or 4 feet till it's about to jam and let this sit there and pull that in and eat it. Good problem to have, too much hay, I guess. It's gonna be a lot of hay for no bigger in this area is. Man, I'm telling you what, one thing we did, this is our test plot, that's why we did it. Here on this test plot, we actually put, I'd have to go back and look at my notes to know for sure how much, but we put a little bit more lime here, the lab report said. And we put more here than what we did on our main hayfield or the reclaimed hayfield. This field right here consistently all season has produced more hay than the rest. Hence a test plot. I think we saw what this done. I think this coming winter we're going to put just a little more lime than what the pH levels, the soil sample says. I don't understand that either. I'm not a scientist, but this produced better than the rest of it. Has consistently every cutting. I'm not a biologist or a scientist, and I can just look at a soil sample and say, yeah, your pH is low, you need to add such and such to bring it up to a such and such level to 7 or 6.5 or whatever your goal is. All I know is we put a little more here. Not a lot, I'm not talking about no huge amount, but we put a little more here than we did in the rest, just as a test, and it was successful. I've kicked a bunch of it against our fence. I'm gonna have to get the leaf blower and blow some of that off the fence, because that is an electric fence, and get it blown off the fence so it don't sit there all night on that fence. Electricity going through it, catch something on fire. But if that hay gets dry enough, get it off the fence quickly with a leaf blower. This is going to be tedded a couple times, as thick as it is. So thanks for being with us. We cut and tedded the first tedding. We'll bring you back when it's time to start raking this up and baling it. Like I said, it's a small plot, it don't take long, but this is our classroom. We learn a lot here, and we really enjoy this little test plot. It's paying dividends. As I said earlier, we're already 41 bales over last year's tally, and we're only halfway through the season. This little test plot is paying dividends. I contribute a lot of that success we're having to this test plot. Thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it. I pray that God blesses you and your family, and hope y'all have a fantastic day. Get all this off the fence. It's blown plumb up all over our bottom strands. That tedder kicked it everywhere.